Hello and welcome to this episode of Packet Tracer. In this episode, we want to talk about using the config tab to configure devices. So let's get started. The purpose of using the config tab is to configure the device using a GUI display instead of the CLI mode. We can of course configure any aspect of the device using the CLI, but this config tab provides us with a GUI that's much easier to configure some common settings on this device. It is divided into four general levels: the global level, the routing, switching, and interface level. Let's go here to the global level. We have the settings, the display name of how this router or how this device will display in Packet Tracer. The host name is the name of this device in iOS config file. If we try to erase the NVRAM, that means to erase the startup configuration. And of course, we try to save to NVRAM, that means saving running config to NVRAM, saving running config to startup config. We can export both the startup config and the running config, and they will be exported inside TXT files. We can also load the startup file using a TXT file or merge the running config using a TXT file. And as such, we have the routing and the switching levels as well. The routing level provides us with some basic abilities to configure routing on this device. And the switching gives us some ability to configure VLANs on this device. And of course, the interface provides us with the ability to configure interfaces on this device. If I turn on this port status, that is equivalent of no shutdown in the CLI. We can configure the MAC address as we want to. By default, the MAC address is provided for us. We can configure the IP address. Let me configure one IP address in here, 192.168.1.1. And if I click on subnet mask field, then a default subnet mask will be provided for me. And when I close this window, the settings are saved. Now let's go to this PC and see how we can configure this PC using the config tab. In the PC, we have only two levels of configuration, the global level and the interface level. In the global settings, we have the display name, we have the interfaces, and we also have the ability to configure a gateway using DHCP or static IP addresses, and we can also configure the DNS server. We can configure the IPv6 gateway as well in here and the DNS server as well. If we go to the interface, Fast Ethernet 0, we again have the ability to configure this interface using DHCP or static IP address. Let's configure this one to 192.168.1.2. And if I click here, a default subnet mask is going to be provided for me. And that's it about using config tab to configure devices. I hope to see you in the next episode and stay tuned.